In this video we're going to talk about containers, and containers are probably one of the most important things you're going to need to know in building rich applications. So the first thing we're going to look at is the tutorial application, and we've created various different containers here. You can see I've just set them with different backgrounds so you can recognize them, but the first thing that's very useful, because normally you won't have these background colors, is the outline button, and if you press that you can see the outlines of all of the individual containers on the page. Second thing to note is the page itself is a container. Now the most useful container, or at least the one you're going to use most often, is the panel container. This is really your friend when it comes to building adaptive layouts. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to get it exactly where you want it when you've got nested containers. So one of the things that's useful is, if you're having trouble dropping it at the right places, just drop it anywhere. Then use Control X or Cut to remove it. Click on the container where you want to put it, and then do Control V, and it'll drop in. Then you can adjust it. The next thing that we're going to mention is the fact that you can nest your containers as far as you like, and this example here shows quite a lot of nesting. First of all, every container you can think of as being nested inside the overall page container anyway. So here, for instance, we've got a horizontal, what we call a horizontal container, and that inside it has three further containers, these three columns if you like, and this container itself has another container within it which is just being used here to act as a spacer. Another important point is that you can often find that containers, if they're nested inside other ones, are slightly hard to select or find. For instance, if I select this image here, now that happens to be embedded within the right column container. If I right click on it, you can see the hierarchy of containers immediately above it. So its parent's called panel container 5, grandparent 2, and then finally the page parent, and that's the actual app itself. So that will select the app properties. One other useful thing is the concept of footers. If I have here, for instance, a container and I want to force that to be located at the very bottom of the browser window, then we select our container and we look for the fixed property. There it is, and you can see that's set to be fixed to the bottom of the page. And if I go into live mode now, I'll just save that, go into live mode, just resize this window, but there you can see how the footer is glued to the bottom of the page. We've talked so far about the panel container, and indeed that's the most useful one for layout purposes. But if you want to do some more interesting cosmetic or data related things, you'll find there are different types of containers here in the container section of the toolbox. So just worth noting that a lot of the properties that we're about to talk about apply to some or all of these container types. Something else that you'll find very useful when working with containers is the Explorer. Often it can be slightly hard to see the relationship between containers, especially when they're nested. So come to the Explorer tab on the left-hand side, and there you can see very nicely the nesting and the relationship between widgets and their containers.